What's going on, everyone? Bean Chow here, and give me just a moment, alright, guys? I gotta get something taken care of for the moment. It's just such a process to do. Studio, videos, live, already live. Copy that. Then we go to Patreon. There we go. Publish now. Patreon's only. Alright, there we go. So, what is up? What's going on? What do we find out today about our little VR6? Well, we got a lot of information doing a teardown today. And what I mean by a lot of information, I mean we got a lot of information out of that motor. So, number one, first thing we found out is the block has been sealed with what we call a block sealer. So what is a block sealer? Well, block sealer is kind of like a chemical that gets put into an engine when there's leaks. What's going on, Ben? Yeah, yeah, I'll do it. I know, I'll do it in a minute. I'm just giving people an update on the car. That's all. Come here. Come here. Oh my goodness, it's a baby. Come here. Okay, let me respond to this to everyone here. Okay, so again, it's gonna be a short video today. So the issue. What's going on, McDubbin? So if you guys watched the pictures and saw some of the quick posts that I gave you guys, the block had a ton of block sealer, and it was blocking holes, hole passages in the block. So it was preventing coolant from going to very, very vital parts of the engine. Number one, so this car was overheating, for sure. Whether or not it was done right or wrong is a whole other story, but for sure I knew this car was overheating. More likely because of the overheating, it started leaking oil. Because obviously when things expand and contract extreme an amount, they get loose and they leak oil. That's just the nature of metal. So that's number one. So that's probably why the engine was covered in grime and sludge and oil. So that's my first thing that I noticed. Number two, when we took the head off, the head is untouched. No damage done to the engine, to the head itself. The cams, even though they were dry, they did not have heat wear, which is a very common problem when an engine is starving of oil. Usually when you run something, and there's no oil to lubricate, a lot of friction is created and the cams will get really hot and they will turn blue. That's a really, really good sign of heat wear. We don't have any signs of that on the cams or even on the lifters, which is impressive for the scenario that we're having right now. Okay, so again, those are two big things about what's going on. Now the third one is we had a weird sign on the front of the engine, like something was burned. There's like really weird residue that looks burned and it smells burned. However, there's no signs of any type of fire. So I'm thinking there was friction. So the belt was probably being turned really hard when something seized and caused the belt to either burn and cause rubber to get thrown everywhere and burn. So that's a sign that I'm looking at on the front of the engine by the accessories where all the accessory belt is chilling. So once we took the tensioner off, everything spun freely but the crank. All the alternator, the AC compressor, the water pump, the power steering was all turning nicely. So that to me right there is an instant sign that it wasn't the accessories causing the engine not to turn. So that's a good plus. So we're off to a good start right there at the moment. So I took the head off. The head had no damage. The valves never hit the pistons. I don't see any cracking or warping of the head. So I don't think this engine ever overheated extremely. I think it probably did overheat, but I think it never overheated to the point where it probably crack a block or something stupid like that. So that right there, already off the bat, shows that at least something was being monitored. Someone was being vigilant about the heat on this engine. So now it goes to the engine itself. So after I took the head off, I took the chains off. I filled pretty much the cylinder walls with WD-40. I just filled them all the way up, and it leaked. They drained down. So that means the piston rings are done. For sure, piston rings aren't doing their job anymore. Because usually when you fill any type of fluid inside a cylinder, it should drain, but it should be very, very slow or none at all. This just, the WD just disappeared instantly. So that to me already is a bad sign that the piston rings are fried. Again, not bad. I did a close up on all the cylinder walls. They're fine. There's no signs of scraping, damage, where a rod is messed up and being thrown left and right. So usually when you have rod knock, the rods are slapping a little harder than normal because the rods are done and they're not being maintained in their proper position. So they're hitting left and right. Usually when that happens, your piston is wiggling and it causes damage around it. I don't see any signs of that. I still see clean crosshatches, factory crosshatch or factory honing done nicely. So another good sign that the engine isn't a total loss. All right. So the next thing is that I haven't been able to do yet because I don't have an engine stand for that motor, is that we're going to put the engine on an engine stand, drain the oil because the oil pan is full of oil right now. Drain the oil, flip it upside down, pull the pan off, and inspect the crank. That is the last thing I think we're going to have a problem. I think the crank is the entirety of the problem in this engine. More likely the rod bearings just failed due to either overheating or poor oil flow. So something happened in the nature because they ran a block sealer. So that, number one, prevented the water to do its job. So the oil was doing all the job of cooling versus the coolant. So more than likely the oil started to overheat. Usually when oil gets really, really, really hot or starts to boil, it loses its viscosity, its whole purpose of lubrication. And when that happens, it turns into water. It literally just does not do its job anymore. And it can cause things like this where main bearings, rod bearings, can actually seize up because they're getting spun. More than likely, the owner of the car probably spun a rod and just said send it and just drove it until it died. And that's what my theory is right now, based on all the evidence that I see currently in this engine. On a very, very good note, there's no damage to the top of the block. I don't see any warping. I don't see any head gasket failure, because usually when you have a head gasket failure, you'll see where the gasket either cracked or you'll see a carbon buildup going from one cylinder to another, or going from a cylinder to like an oil passage or a coolant passage. I don't see any of that. So those are really, really good signs that we are in the clear for a rebuild. So that's all I wanted to give you guys a heads up on tonight, on what I saw today during my teardown. I'm very, very excited for this because this means our rebuild will be very inexpensive and affordable for everybody. So it's going to be really cool because that means I don't have to focus as much towards the engine. I got to put more of my focus now towards cosmetics, wiring, engine bay tuck, the engine bay tuck, not wire tucking, maybe shaving the bay, doing some work on the body, interior work. We might keep it stock, maybe get a nice set of race seats. I don't know yet, but right now it's looking very, very good. The wire harness looks unaffected. I don't see any damage done to any wiring, besides the really, really janky job of the aftermarket cheap headlights. That's all I see that's an actual problem with this car, which is really good. I'm excited. Suspension's obviously going to be beefed up. We're going to do all polyurethane suspension bushings. It's got a really, really good set of Koni coilovers, so I'm not going to remove those. I'll probably send them out to Koni and have them rebuilt or serviced. That's pretty much it, though. Do you guys have any questions for me tonight? If not, I'm going to call it a night. I'm actually uploading the video that we did live together. And then tomorrow, I'm going to do some editing of the new video that I did today, tearing down the engine. These are exclusive for you guys, so you guys can rewatch these videos in high definition in 1080p, 60 frames a second. So you guys can rewatch the whole entire engine removal. Tomorrow, when I got more time, I will do the entire engine teardown, removing everything on the engine. I did that. I filmed that today. It was over 100 degrees today, in pretty much in the daylight, so under the awning I think it was around 90, 95. So it was really, really hot. I did not want to put my computer through that temperature and ruin my computer, so I did not do a live stream for that reason. So I did everything with my head camera, using my little Sony Action Cam. This little camera does a really, really good job for filming. So we're going to be using that most of the time if we can't do live streams. Any other questions? Again, if you guys don't have any, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for commenting, McDubbin. I know, again, these live sessions are amazing and they're fun and they're informative, but I just want to give you guys a quick heads up of what's going on. All right, be safe out there, and as always, we're going to break, we're going to fix, and we're going to repeat. Have a wonderful night, everyone, and be safe again out there. And I will see you guys tomorrow with another live stream for all my Patreons. Again, these live streams are only for you guys. No one on YouTube is getting them. These are unlisted live streams. After a week, I post them back up for everybody else to watch. The video that I'm currently making right now is for you guys as well. So you guys, again, can rewatch it over and over. It's unlisted, so no one else can get to it besides you guys. All right? Thank you for tuning in, and have a wonderful night, everyone. Peace out.